Orange is the New Black is where we dive in. Every episode we'll discuss, even the scenes that made us cuss. So follow me, join the spree. I try to space for two E's. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fans, please come on board. Susie's special line and all these ideas, because we make it everything truly as it is.
Hello, and welcome to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a rewatch podcast for the Netflix TV show Orange is the New Black. Every Tuesday, I'll be recapping one episode of the show with you, but please keep in mind that this is a rewatch podcast. That means that there may be spoilers about things that happen in the future episodes, so please be warned. This is definitely a spoiler zone. On today's episode of our Orange is the New Black rewatch, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 1, titled I Wasn't Ready. On IMDb, they have a synopsis for this episode, and it says, Piper Chapman is sent to jail as a result of her relationship with a drug smuggler. We'll later find out who that drug smuggler is and all of her backstory and all of the other things that go on in the prison. But starting out, that's all we know. In this episode, we're going to get a backstory about Piper, obviously, because she's the first person that we're going to meet. It's really her story. This show is based on a book by a real person named Piper Kerman, and she actually did go through this. She actually did go to jail as a result of a relationship with a drug smuggler. So, it is based on a true story. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the first season is really closely based on her experience there. We get a lot more social commentary after that. But the first season is based on Piper Kerman's book and her time spent in prison. As a result, we're going to be following Piper Chapman as the main character in the prison. Although, if you're a fan of the show and if you know the meme, she's the main character, but is she the main character? There's so many very dynamic women in this prison, and the writers do an excellent job of making us fall in love with so many of them that it's almost weird to think of Piper as the main character, because she's probably, in my opinion, Piper is probably one of the least interesting people in the prison. The prison is full of so many people that are so very interesting with so many compelling backstories. And Piper, she is kind of like our guide. I would like to think of her more as a guide through the prison and into meeting these other women and their very dynamic backstories. IMDb rates this episode a 7.7, which, if I speak to my husband, he thinks anything over a 6 on IMDb is pretty good. 7.7 is solid. At the end of this pod, I will give my personal episode rating. So I encourage you guys to go ahead and write your episode rating in the comments so we can get an idea of what we the people think is actually the rating on this episode. I'm not going to pretend like I know the resumes of every person who's ever worked on this show, but I am familiar with Jenji Cohen. Jenji is the show's creator, so I do know her. I believe she's worked on other shows, other popular shows like Weeds, which I've also been meaning to check out. So shout out to Jenji for creating this gift of Orange is the New Black for us. Also, you should know that the episode was directed by Michael Trim and also written by Liz Friedman. So let's get into the first episode. The first thing we hear when the show opens up is I'll Take You There by the Staple Sisters. A nice old soulful hit from the 70s is the first thing that we hear. So already I'm thinking, okay, this show's got a little bit of flavor to it. Let's see what they got. We hear Piper giving her first monologue. And as we know, again, this is a spoiler podcast. I do love that the opening monologue about getting clean is also used as the closing monologue for the entire show. That is such a nice way to bookend the show. I thought it was really, really well done. Great writing. So we open up with her monologue about getting clean. She says that she's always loved getting clean. She's loved baths. She loves showers. We see her, getting clean throughout the ages. She says that getting clean is her happy place. And then we hear the alarm of the prison. We have a quick transition to Piper in her first shower at prison. And she clarifies to say, just kidding, was my happy place. So she's taking her first shower in the prison, so loud, so crowded, so not private. And we're seeing how this is no longer her happy place. This is also the first time that we're seeing how willing the show is to go there with just showing the unaltered, real look at prison. I mean, we're seeing these ladies in the shower, just going about their business. It's not done in a sexual way. It's just they're taking a shower, and we do see, nudity in these scenes, but it's just whatever. The women are so used to it that they don't care. It's just what it is. They're living together. They have to wash together. They have to do everything together. So it's just normal. The first person that we see Piper interacting with in prison is Tasty. Tasty, in my opinion, is the second lead on the show. I like to think of Tasty as showing an alternate path that one can go down when in prison. We see Piper is on one path and we see Tasty is on a different path. I find Tasty's story very compelling. And just to put it out there, she is one of my favorite characters. So definitely one of my favorite characters. Tasty takes off Piper's towel and she's like, oh, wow, they're so great. They're standing up just like they're on TV titties, and Piper's clearly like, why are you invading my space? Like, can I get my towel back, please? But Tasty doesn't mean anything by it. It's just, listen, we are here. We're home. Get used to it. This is just how it is. People are going to be in your space, and that's just kind of how it is. On her way out of the shower area, though, Piper does look down at her boobs and she's almost like, oh, well, shoot, I guess I do look okay. Almost like she's glad that she got the compliment. So I guess no harm, no foul there. Then we hear Tasty singing the song that was playing in the intro in the shower. She's singing I'll Take You There by the Staple Sisters. Then we get our opening credits. The animals, trapped, till the cage is full. That theme song is so iconic. I mean, and just watching all the women, their eyes, their mouths, their faces as they pass through the credit scene. I don't know why. It just seems very moving to me, honestly. From what I hear, these are actual women who were in prison at one time or another. So it's like telling their stories. As we know how the show goes, the animals, that's how they're treated oftentimes in this prison. So after the opening credits, we're getting some of Piper's backstory, her immediate backstory. This is right before she's about to go to prison. So we're at her best friend's house and they're having a little barbecue, basically like a goodbye dinner. This is where we're meeting up with her best friend, Polly, and her husband. We find out that Polly is pregnant and they have a baby on the way. They're roasting a pig, and Piper thinks it's funny because she says it's thematic. They're literally roasting the pigs, meaning cops. I mean, I guess. I guess. Okay, Piper, you think that's funny? Cool. Polly is here telling Piper that she hates that she's going to jail. And Piper's like, it's not jail, it's prison. There is a difference. Also, the next thing that Polly says is that she's so sad because she's going to miss her baby shower. Like, sorry, girl. Yeah, I'm so sorry I'm going to miss your baby shower. But also, I'm about to go to prison. Like, maybe it's not about you right now. Maybe. I'm not a fan of Polly. I don't think she's a good friend. But anyways, she's making Piper going to prison about her, and yeah, not a fan. At the dinner with her friends, Piper told Polly that she's not allowed to cry, but when she's actually back home and trying to rally and have one last sex romp with her fiance, she takes a break and she's actually crying by herself in the bathroom. Probably one of the most vulnerable ways that we probably could see her. But even though she doesn't want her best friend to cry, she's clearly distraught over this. This is going to be a big change in her life. So we definitely see the human side of Piper right off the bat. We're seeing her vulnerability and her crying. So even though she's distraught, she and Larry end up getting it in just that one last time. Because, I mean, she is about to go away to prison. So they got to get that done. Knock that one out the park. And now we see her pulling up to Litchfield. We get our first vision of one of the guards. We see the guard pull up and he says to them, hey, there's no visitors today. And she's like, well, actually, we're here to self-surrender. And he's like, oh, okay. So we see the first example of just the little implicit bias. The guard didn't even think that this girl was here to surrender. She couldn't possibly be here to surrender. She's a little white girl with blonde hair. She looks nice, put together, normal, whatever that means. Even Piper felt like he looked surprised. I know this little back and forth bickering in the car with Piper and Larry is supposed to make us feel like they're a cute little endearing married old couple, but I really don't care. I really don't care. I don't find them endearing. I find him obnoxious. But okay. Okay, so then they finally get out of the car and they go into the prison and we're met with another guard. She's on the phone with somebody and saying, hey, yeah, there's a self-surrender here. And she seems annoyed because nobody told her, which is an example of Litchfield showing us how they are so not well prepared. Like they're not a very well-oiled machine. Things happen there. People are unprepared. They don't know what to do. They're caught off guard, off guard. And this happens often. And literally the first day Piper's trying to enter, she's met with the fact that they don't have their stuff together. Piper said that her mother told her friends that she's doing volunteer work in Africa. And Larry jokes that, oh, they're probably so worried that you're going somewhere so filthy and dangerous. That's our first look into Piper and her family. We kind of get the idea that they're probably a little bit like upper class and kind of, you know, high society types. So we know that's where she comes from. That's when we get another backstory scene of Piper telling her family that she's going to prison. She's explaining to them that she never really carried drugs. She only carried money and that she didn't really make anything from it. She was really only in it for the relationship and that she's not gay. She just was in a relationship with a woman at the time. She doesn't actually come out and say that she's gay or straight or bi, but I mean, she does have relationships with men and women. So back at the prison, Piper is getting ready to make her last post on social media when the guard stops her and says, hey, you can't have a cell phone in here. This is a federal facility. What are you doing? You got to take that out of here. So she's like, okay, so can I take it out? And the guard's like, no. Like, you've already self-surrendered. You're not leaving. So Larry goes to take it out. If I were her, I would have been so scared that he wasn't going to make it back in time. Almost as soon as he leaves, we are introduced to CO Bell. She's the lady guard who tells Piper, it's time. I don't care if he's not back. You're done waiting. It's time to go now. We're not on your time. You're on our time. Welcome to prison. Piper introduces Larry to her as her fiance. CO Bell goes, yeah, well, good luck with that. Like, dang. That's when the CO realizes that Piper has to check with her. And she's like, you can't keep this. You have to go send this to Iowa. And they're like, well, we called and they literally told us to bring it. And she's like, yeah, well, you got to go send it to Iowa. Again, we're seeing the horrible efficiency of the prison. Now she's going to be kind of messed up because she doesn't have any money. Now she's going to have to wait weeks for processing for the check to go to Iowa. All because somebody, whoever she spoke to on the phone, told her the wrong information. Then Piper and Larry exchange their goodbyes tearfully. Hug, hug, bye-bye. Please update my website. And he's out of there. Next up, we see Piper in the back going through processing with CO Bell. She's asking her shoe size, and now she's telling her to strip. The instruction for her to strip prompts another backstory from Piper. This is where we see her with Alex, and she's remembering a memory where I guess she was about to strip for Alex. Very different than stripping in prison for CO Bell. I know so many of us fans of Orange is the New Black really ship Piper and Alex. So many people really love Piper and Alex, and specifically Alex. I am not one of those people. So sorry to tell you all, I am not a fan of their relationship. I am not a super fan of Alex. I don't think she's super hot. So I never really saw it for Alex, but you know, I mean, I can see how other people see it for her. This strip memory is more than just a strip memory. It's actually the moment when Alex asks Piper to literally quit her job and come with her to Bali. So she's inviting her into her world, this very dangerous world of drug trafficking and everything. So it looks like Piper thinks it's exciting, which is going to lead to her downfall, which we know now. So after Piper says yes to going to Bali, Alex insists that she's not going to get in trouble, that she's only going to be there to keep her company. So Piper decides to go. After we see the end of that flashback, we're back in prison with Piper. And CO Bell is asking her to basically go through an exam like a dog would. You know, she's having her open her mouth, stick out her tongue, spread her arms, spread her butt cheeks, everything. She's examining her like she's an animal. The animal's the animal. Oh, the next thing we see is Piper entering the prison van. So this is where we're introduced to two more inmates. We have Morello at the driver's seat, and we have Janae Watson sitting next to Piper. So I will just say, you know, just up front, I just have to let you guys know up front my favorite characters. So Morello is one of my favorite characters on the show. I know she's very complicated, as many of the characters on the show are. I personally love her love of love, and even though it's a little bit to the left, I understand and I get it. But, you know, at the core, her love of love. I also just think that she's a fun person. I think she's fun. Yes, she can be a bit racist, but I think honestly that's out of ignorance. Hopefully, as she learns more, she'll do better. I think that she will. I don't think she's a bad person. I think that she is ignorant. Also, as time goes on, I sympathize with her story, with her child and everything. So that's another reason why she's one of my favorite characters and very close to my heart. So we see Morello asks Piper what's her name and asks for her last name. She explains that everyone there uses last names, and she says that she's Morello and that's Watson. Piper tells us that she's been sentenced to 15 months in prison, and that's when Morello tells us that she's got 34. I'm not very good at keeping track of the timeline over the course of the show, but that's what they tell us from the Jump Street, that Piper has 15 months and Morello has 34. Some of those numbers are going to change over the course of the show. The show only takes place over a couple of years, so we're going to be able to see some of those things play out. Piper is so shocked that Morello's allowed to drive. She's like, wait, so they let you drive? And she's like, yeah, who else is going to do it? We do everything around here. And Morello's accent in this first episode is very strong. It's super strong. It's very pronounced. I mean, she does have a very pronounced accent throughout the rest of the show, but here it's even more so. I guess later on they decided to just cool it down a little bit, but here it's super strong. It almost threw me off. As I started this rewatch, I was like, whoa, I forgot. She comes on pretty strong here. So this is also when we're introduced to the fact that Morello's planning a wedding. Morello asks Piper to help her pick her wedding dress. She's got a magazine and she's like, I like this one and this one, and which one do you think? And, you know, we all know the big reveal about Morello's wedding. But at this point in time, I was like, oh, okay, she's planning a wedding. That's so cute. She's so excited. She loves love. I was just so excited for her. You know, I was like, okay, she's in prison, but she's still got her light. And that was kind of nice to see. Of course, her reveal about her wedding was probably one of the most shocking and heartbreaking reveals for me. I was like, whoa, really? But yeah, that was really, I had no idea. No idea. But anyways, we'll get there. Morello says she wants to show off the boobs and the ass, but she's not so happy about her upper arms and stomach. Girl, same. I think most women probably feel that way, but same. Morello's a little bit annoyed because Piper doesn't really give her an opinion, and she's like, listen, I gotta look good because my first dance is gonna be on YouTube. That prompts another flashback from Piper where she's remembering a time where Larry was recording her on the beach. It was the moment when they got engaged. So Piper's talking about all the things she's gonna do when she gets to prison. She says she's gonna read everything on her Amazon wish list. She's gonna get ripped. So obviously this is after she knows she's going to prison. The fact she knows she's going to prison and Larry still takes this moment to propose to her, I guess says something about his level of commitment to their relationship. I'll give him that. The fact that he was still willing to marry her even though she was going to prison, I guess that speaks to his character there in that moment anyways. I'll give him that one. That's his one. I wonder if there's anybody out there who likes Larry and Piper together. Like, I'm watching their proposal and I feel absolutely nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. If you like Larry and Piper, please put it down in the comments. Let me know, because I'd love to know if there's anybody out there who actually likes their relationship. So I do love the transitions between the flashbacks and the show. It's always like something linking one to the other. It's very clear, and then you see why they're connected. So at the end of the flashback at the beach where Piper's getting engaged, Larry pulls her close and is like, oh, you're cold. He pulls her close to try to warm her up. And then we're put back into the present where Piper is in the prison van cold and Morello's telling her, hey, bounce your legs up and down. It'll keep your feet warm. So that's our link from the past back to the present. So Janae asks Morello, do you think your man is still going to be around when you're out? Morello's like, of course. I'm the love of his life. And Janae's like, I don't know. 34 months is a long time. Piper's like, yeah, but she's the love of his life. I think even Piper at that point is sold on like, Morello is in love, okay? Just like we were. I was. Then we have one more inmate join them in the van. She doesn't say anything, but Dayanara Diaz slides quietly into the back seat. Daya is what we come to call her. She also, in my opinion, is another lead on this show. Her path is another alternate path, and it is a very compelling story. Daya is definitely another lead, in my opinion, on this show. Since we're rewatching, I'm looking at them walking into the prison for the first time, and I'm trying to see if I know any of these inmates standing outside, and I don't. None of them look familiar. None of our major characters are standing outside when they're first entering. The first person that we see that we do know is Miss Claudette. She kind of comes off as a no-nonsense type of lady, and Morello says, hey, she's cool and everything, but like, don't get on her bad side. So that's how we're introduced to Miss Claudette. She's nice, but she's also not to be messed with. Next up, Piper is going to go take her pictures for her prison ID. This is where we meet CEO Mendez, aka Porn Stash. That's what the ladies call him, and that's what a lot of the fans ended up calling him. Honestly, I think of him as Porn Stash before I think of him as Mendez. He's the one at the computer getting ready to take her picture. Also behind him is CEO Bennett, who is another important CEO. Both of these CEOs are pretty big in the storyline in the first couple of seasons. So this is where we meet them. Mendez is having a hard time figuring out how to take the picture for Piper. So he calls over Bennett and we find out that he's the new guy and Mendez is asking him for help. So they're fumbling around with the computer and Piper's like, well, there's a cord hanging in there. Do you think maybe that needs to be connected to something? And Bennett grabs the cord. Porn Stash says, shut your mouth and stand still. And he quickly takes the picture without even giving her any warning. So her picture basically just looks like she's stunned. Which, that was a dick move. Like, why'd you have to do that? That's not cool. Clearly, the CEOs are not happy with inmates helping them or telling them or knowing better than them or exposing a mistake of theirs. But who is? There might be a level of misogyny there as well, where Porn Stash just wasn't happy with a woman telling him what to do or correcting him. Whatever it is, it was nasty business. Not a fan. After he takes a picture of her without giving her any warning, that's where we get the title line of the episode. She goes, I wasn't ready. He goes, tough shit. Next. So, yeah, she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready for prison and she wasn't ready for that photo. But that's going to be her prison photo for the rest of the show. When the doctor's examining her, he asks her if she has any tattoos and she's like, oh, yeah, I do have one. She shows him the tattoo on the back of her neck, which is of a fish. And he's like, oh, fish. Do you like fish? And she's like, well, I don't know. I saw it on a scuba diving trip. I thought it was beautiful. So I got it. That leads us to another flashback of Piper and Alex. So Alex put the tattoo on her, I guess thinking it was temporary. And she tells her that she can take it off with acetone. But apparently she was wrong because it never came off. And she still got that tattoo on the back of her neck. So in this scene with the fish tattoo, we're seeing Alex set Piper up to go on this trip. She's going to send her off to go carry money for the drug ring. Alex assures her that she's going to meet her in Brussels and everything's going to be okay. And that is, again, our transition back to the present where Piper's counselor, Mr. Healy, is asking her, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine, I guess. This is where we find out more information about the company that Piper has with her best friend, Polly. The company is called Poppy. It's a combination of Polly and Piper. And it's a bath products line. She's super excited because she says that they're going to be in Barney's. Big fancy store. She says that she was charged with criminal conspiracy because she carried a suitcase of drug money once. 10 years ago. Mr. Healy asks her what's the statute of limitations on a crime like that. She pauses and says 12 years. So it's like, damn it. She had 2 years to go and she got caught within that statute of limitations. And here she is in prison for a mistake that she made 10 years ago. Which is kind of bananas. But like she says, she did it. She explains that her lawyer told her that with mandatory minimums for drug trials that she shouldn't go to trial. So she just took the plea and now she's in prison. Mr. Healy says he's been there for 22 years, but he still can't figure out how the system works. Which, I'm sure there's plenty of people who work within that system who probably feel the same way. It must be almost heartbreaking sometimes when you're trying to make a difference and you realize that you literally can't. So Mr. Healy is trying to give her some warnings about things to look out for and things to prepare herself for her time here in prison. This is the first time that we're seeing his bias against lesbians. He's saying that she needs to watch out for them. He's telling her that they're going to try to be her friend and that she should stay away from them, assuming that she's not lesbian herself or bi or anywhere on the spectrum. That's a pretty big assumption. And I wonder who all he tells that to. It's a very clear bias. And I think it's really inappropriate for him to be saying this to the inmates. Mr. Healy also advises Piper not to make friends. One of the last things that he says to her is to remember, nothing goes on here that I don't know about. Oh, that's a line that's going to come back. We're going to need to stick a pin in that one. We'll come back to that in future seasons. Spoiler alert, that's not true. So Mr. Healy saying that there's nothing that goes on in the prison that he doesn't know about is also the link that brings us back to another Piper flashback where Larry is finding out that Piper is about to go to prison. It's revealed here in this flashback that Piper was only 22 at the time when she did this crime. So that means that she's 32 now. This is when we find out that Larry offers to have his dad represent Piper in this case. Piper's like, no, please don't call your daddy. He already hates me. And he's like, yeah, well, I love you, so he's going to help. So that's how we find out that it's actually Larry's dad who was Piper's lawyer in this case. The next inmate that we meet in the hallway is going to be Yoga Jones. She says her little namaste, and Morello tells us that she teaches yoga. The next inmate that we meet is Aleida Diaz. As the ladies are talking to Morello and she explains when they're going to be getting the regular uniforms like everyone else, Aleida literally walks up to Daya and slaps her across the face and just walks off, says nothing. And everybody looking at her like, what the heck just happened? Morello just goes, friend of yours? And Daya's like, no, it's my mom. Like, what, girl? That's your mom? Your mom is in prison? That was a big, funny reveal. Like, whoa. Talk about generational trauma. Aleida is a character that I didn't really much care for the first time I watched the show through. The more and more I watch it, the more and more I become sympathetic to her. I mean, she is not a great mom, but she's been through an awful lot. I think in her mind, she thinks that she's doing better than her mom did. She's not one of my favorites, but I definitely have some sympathy for her. And she's really funny. I'll give her that. She's hilarious. So then Morello takes Piper and Daya over to their first room where they're going to meet their roommates. The first person we meet in there is DeMarco. We learn that the people in the prison kind of go by a tribal system. As Morello explains, it's not racial, it's tribal. So basically the white people are going to help the white people, the Latinas are going to help the Latinas, the black people are going to help the black people, and so on and so forth. So that's just how it goes. So that's why she's asking DeMarco to help Piper, since they're both white women. And she in turn asks Gloria, another inmate that we meet in this room, to help Daya because she's also Latina. Now, Gloria is a nice contrast to Aleida. I would consider Gloria a much better mom than Aleida. While she also made mistakes, I think that she was a very good mom and her heart was definitely in the right place. We see her become a mother figure in the prison as well. So when Gloria Mendoza is introduced to Daya, Gloria immediately starts speaking to her in Spanish, and Daya's like, hey, I don't speak Spanish. Gloria is immediately offended. She's like, what do you mean your mother doesn't teach you Spanish? What's wrong with you? She calls her a coconut. And like, the time I'm recording this, Kamala and her coconut tree meme is just taking off on TikTok. So it's kind of funny to me that she's calling her a coconut here. She asks, what's the matter with her? Why didn't her mother teach her Spanish? And honestly, same. I mean, I don't want to shame people who don't know Spanish, but I feel like, I don't know, as a Black person in America where our culture was stolen from us, I feel like if you still have access to your culture, why do you not partake? Like, learn your language, know your culture. It's amazing. You know, keep that stuff. It's very important. But anyways, in this case, I was not able to learn Spanish from her mom. DeMarco then introduces Piper to Miss Rosa and to Nichols. She tells her that Nichols got out of the shoe a week ago. Now, Nikki Nichols is one of my favorite characters. She's also a very complex person, and she goes through her struggles with addiction, and personally, her mommy issues are definitely easy to relate to. She's also a really funny character, so I really enjoy Nikki. Miss Rosa also is a piece of work. She's an older lady in the prison, but she definitely leaves her mark. So we find out that Nikki just got back from the SHU, and we find out that that's basically an acronym for Solitary Housing Unit. That's where they send the inmates when they feel like they need to be isolated. Personally, I don't agree with isolation. I don't think it's very good for them at all, or for anyone for that matter. But that's a method of, I guess, discipline that they use in the prison at this time. It's not somewhere you want to go. It's not somewhere you want to be. And that's where Nikki just came out of. I think it's good to note that there is definitely an adjustment period when people come out of the SHU. They come from being in an isolated state to then reacclimating themselves to society, be it a prison society, but they're reacclimating themselves to society. So it just takes some time. We find out that DeMarco has a breathing machine that she uses at night. She tells Piper that when she first got to prison, she had a massive heart attack, which sounds absolutely insane, but also probably pretty realistic. I mean, it's a very traumatic experience to have to go to prison, so I'm sure that's not an uncommon occurrence for people to react in that way once they get there. Piper asks DeMarco how she can make a phone call, and so she's telling her all about the system and how it works, but she's telling her that for the first day, maybe Caputo let her make a call. She also gives her a hint that it might help if she cries. So then Gloria says to Piper, hey, Blanca, you speak Spanish? And she basically responds in Spanish, I speak a little bit, but I understand more than I can speak. To which Gloria says to Daya, you see, even the white girl can speak Spanish. Like, come on, get it together. So while they're waiting for the count, Nikki asks her, Look at you, Blondie. What are you in here for? What did you do? And Piper's like, wait, aren't you not supposed to ask that? I read that you're not supposed to ask that. And Nikki's like, you read that? Like, you studied for prison? Like, who studies for prison? Actually, honestly, I probably would study for prison. And honestly, I don't think that's so bad. I think I would want to know what to expect. I probably would study for prison. Knock on wood, I never want to go there. But yeah, I would probably study for prison. But low key, that's like the whole plot of Get Hard. So, shout out to the people who study for prison. That's when we see the flashback of Piper's actual crime. We see her in Brussels waiting for her bag of money, and it's late, it's delayed, it's lost. So she's freaking out, waiting for it to arrive. It eventually does, and she just walks right out. She doesn't go through customs or anything. It's not like she's some criminal mastermind that she didn't go through customs. She just literally didn't know. She was just totally naive. But I think that's probably why Alex picked her, because she's just so naive and so unassuming that nobody's even taking another look at her. She's just some crazy American. Piper says that she was so freaked out when the bag didn't come that she almost bailed. And Alex is like, well, it's a good thing that you didn't, because there's over 50 grand in that bag. And Piper's like, what? It's almost as if she didn't know. Alex is like, Cooper would have had you killed. So that's when we find out the name of their drug boss, Kubra. When Piper finds out that Cooper would have had her killed, she looks absolutely stunned. Like, whoa, how did I get mixed up in this? When we get back to the prison, we are in our first scene in the cafeteria. We're seeing more and more of the inmates, even though we're not meeting them yet. We see Tasty sitting in the back with Poussey and Crazy Eyes, Suzanne. We run into Gina, who's sweeping the floor. Piper looks scared, as if it's the first day of school, and she's trying to figure out where to sit in the cafeteria. So Gina's like, listen, you can go sit with Yoga Jones. She's a nice white lady. Don't worry, you can sit with her. So Yoga Jones asked Piper if she knows what a mandala is. This is the first time that we're seeing Yoga Jones make this analogy. She's comparing time in prison to this mandala. She explains that the Tibetan monks use sand art to make these huge, beautiful mandalas, and after they're done, they just wipe them all away. So basically, she's encouraging Piper to think of her time in prison as a mandala. You're going to be here, you're going to build something beautiful with your time here, but when you're done, you wipe it all away and you move on with your life. She encourages her to work hard to make something as meaningful and beautiful as you can. And when you're done, pack it in and know it was all temporary. We'll see throughout the show that Yoga Jones tells this to many new inmates within the prison. Her mandala story is basically her go-to welcome to prison. This is how you should try to look at it speech. Hopefully it's helpful to some of the women. The next inmate that we meet is Sister Engels, and Piper is shocked. She's like, sister? Like a nun? Like, what the heck did you do? We find out that her crime is that she chained herself to a flagpole at a nuclear test site, basically for protesting. Nikki comes over and joins them at the table, and she's like, hey, why are you taking advice from a nun and a hippie? And Yoga Jones responds with, oh, by all means, seek out the supreme wisdom of the junkie philosopher. But honestly, Nikki is a junkie philosopher, and she does have some wisdom, so I wouldn't knock it till you try it, not the drugs, but the philosophy. There's wisdom that can come from a lot of different people, including the junkie philosopher. Nikki comes off really strong here with her lesbian vibe. She's hitting on Yoga Jones, she's hitting on Piper, she's hitting on even Sister Engels, So we find out, she's clearly a lesbian here in the prison, and she's kind of a boss one too. The next person that comes over to the table is Galina Reznikov, aka Red. She is probably the biggest prison mama in the prison I can think of. I don't know. She's a very big motherly figure in the prison. Tough mom, tough love mom, but a mom nonetheless. The first time that we see her, she's giving out yogurts to her friends, aka her prison family. When she gives one to Nikki, she literally says, thank you, mommy, because Red is literally like Nikki's mom in the prison and in life, because as we know, Nikki's mom is not great. So because Piper already met Daya's mom, she thinks that this is literally Nikki's mom. So she's like, is this your mom? And so Nikki explains, no. She's just my maternal figurehead. She explains that her actual mother lives in Brazil with her boyfriend, Paulo. So apparently her parents are divorced and she's out there gallivanting, living her life. So we clearly know what Nikki's relationship is with her mother. She ends the conversation about her mom with, she is a cunt, I am an embarrassment. So there we are. They don't get along, and that's the dynamic. Her mom is horrible, and she feels like her mom sees her as an embarrassment. The next person that we're going to meet is Big Boo. She comes over to Red asking her if she's got a yogurt cup for her. Red asks her, well, do you have what I asked you for? And she's like, I'm working on it. So Red's like, well, treats come when I sleep better. Basically, Red is expecting something from Boo to help her with her sleep. And it hasn't come in yet. So until it comes in, Red's not trying to help Boo with anything. She's like, how hard is it to get a board from the wood shop? So this is where we find out that Red has a bad back and she's waiting on Boo to get her a board from the wood shop. That's when Red asks Nikki, so who's this, regarding Piper? And she's like, yeah, she's new. So Red's like, okay, well, here you go, have a yogurt. You know, basically, welcome to prison. Piper's a little apprehensive. She's like, hey, okay, cool, but like, what do I have to do for it? But Red's like, you know, you're one of us, just consider it a gift. Piper's super appreciative. But then she goes on to say, the food here is disgusting. To Red, who she doesn't yet know is actually in charge of the food. She runs the kitchen. So she basically stuck her entire foot in her mouth here. And Nikki knows it. She's like, oh crap. Oh no. You've insulted the cook. What's going to happen? To her face, no less. And so finally, Piper's like, what? What did I do? And Nikki says, did I mention that Red runs the kitchen? And so Piper's like, crap, I'm so sorry. Red's like, listen, honey, I know you're new here and you don't know what's what, but I'm going to tell you, if you don't like the food, listen, that's no problem. No problem at all. But she says it in a way that you know that is more like a threat. Like, you should be afraid. What do you mean by that? No problem. Nikki knows. She goes, holy shit, that was an epic fuck up. Like, yeah, you really messed up now. When you've done ticked off Red, you've messed up. Then we see Piper going in to meet Mr. Caputo. Mr. Caputo is, at this point, a head guard here in the prison. So Piper is going over to him to find out if she can use his phone to call her fiance. Now, Caputo, I do like. As far as guards go, I do enjoy Caputo. I enjoy his growth over the course of the show. I think that his character development was really good. And I enjoyed watching him change over the course of the show. I think at the end of the day, his heart's in the right place. And I really enjoy that. Guard with a heart. Who knew? Caputo tried to be tough with her, but as soon as he got tough with her, she immediately went to the crying because she heard it from DeMarco, and guess what? It worked. He let her use the phone. He's like, listen, you got 2 minutes, that's it, close the door. So Piper calls Larry's phone, but who answers but his mother? Why are you answering your son's cell phone? Anyways, and then she tries to monopolize the conversation. Like, give the phone to your son. She doesn't have a lot of time. And she certainly doesn't want to talk to you. She wants to talk to her fiance. Eventually, Larry takes the phone from his mom and she's like, hey, I was talking. And her husband goes, it's not always about you, dear. It's not. It's really not. So Piper gets to talk to Larry for a moment from Caputo's office. Larry asks Piper how she's doing, and she's like, I'm wearing granny panties and I've only spoken to white people. He laughs and he's like, so are you joining the Aryan Nation? Which is a funny little line that comes back up later. Yeah, Aryan Nation does enter the prison and kind of, she kind of does. Anyways, we'll get there. We'll get there. She complains to him, not like super complains, but just mentions that she got bars of hotel soap but no shampoo. So it seems like Caputo noticed that part. When she leaves the office, he's going to make sure that he gives her a little bottle of shampoo, which I think is a kind gesture from him. And lets us see from the jump that he does have a heart. He's kind of thoughtful. He's kind of considerate about these women. And I think it's nice to see that he does, unlike many of the guards, view them as people still, at least, you know? Piper tells Larry that she insulted the chef, and Caputo looks at her like, ooh, that's not good. Like, even Caputo knows, oof, you do not get on Red's bad side. So she tells him to come on Friday and then tells him to tell her mother to come on Saturday, but to not tell her mother that he is coming on Friday, which, same girl. I feel you. I understand that entire dynamic. Yes, I want my man to come first because I need to see him. I want my mom to come too, but please don't tell her that you came first because then she'll feel bad, blah, blah, blah. So yes, I get it. My mom was the same way. Not that I was in prison, but like she would be very jealous. So yes, R.I.P. Mom, love you. So after Caputo gives Chapman the shampoo, he tells her to close the door behind her because he's about to do what he does, which, you know, in the beginning of the show, he was not perfect guard, I'll tell you that. So he's going to have her close the door and he's going to get out his lotion and start watching his videos on the internet to do his little personal time, we'll call it. Okay. We find out later that apparently he does that whenever he's in an interaction with somebody that he considers hot in the prison. So that's gross. We know that he will stop doing that eventually. But at this point, that's gross. Now we're back to the shower scene where we first saw Piper in the prison. We're seeing her walk out of the shower area into the bathroom stalls area. And we're hearing somebody talking in the middle stall really, really loudly, but in Spanish. So we can't really tell what they're saying. When she comes out of the stall, we see that it's Blanca. We are going to get to know Blanca a lot over the course of this show. In the beginning, though, they make her seem so crazy and wild. It's so weird to see watching it from season 1, episode 1 all over again, but she becomes a very dynamic and more fleshed out character as the time goes on. So it's nice that they develop her character along the way, but she starts off here really kind of one-dimensional. She's just this crazy lady who talks in the stall. We know later who she's talking to and what's going on there, but yeah, initially they make her out to be this crazy lady, which not really a big fan of, but I'm really glad that they developed her character later on. And we see our first little bit of a sex scene from within the prison. And Piper is just stunned, like, this is just happening right here where everybody can see, like, whoa. But she somehow can't look away. I think that a lot of the scenes in this show helped a lot of adult women to come out and realize that maybe they might be on the spectrum. So shout out to this show for awakening a whole generation of millennials who were not taught to know that there was an option for bisexuality, because honestly, we didn't grow up with that. Either you were gay or you were straight, and that was about it. And we're introduced to another inmate, Miss Sophia Brissett. While Piper is in the lunch line, she starts petting her hair, and she's like, "Oh, you have such pretty hair," which is kind of ironic because Black women don't like to have our hair touched in general. Like, don't pet me like I'm an animal. And yet, that's the first time we see Miss Sophia. She's petting Piper's hair. So that's kind of ironic. But in her defense, she's a hairdresser, so maybe that's just something that hairdressers do. Not sure, but it's still weird to just be in somebody's personal space like that, I think. Miss Sophia Brissett was a pretty interesting character when the show first started, because I don't know for many other people, but she was one of the first trans actresses I've ever seen on screen. So to have her there representing at the very beginning of when trans people were becoming more mainstream and more understood in public society, it was really nice to have her on screen representing and showing her path in this prison system. Yes, it's within prison, but still we got to see some representation there of her path and her struggle and the things that she goes through in her life, especially with dealing with her transition and how it affects her and her family. This is how we find out that Sophia is a hairdresser, because she asks Piper to come to see her whenever her roots start to show so she can give her a little touch up with her hair. This is also the first time that we hear Sophia's running joke of, even if you don't come to me, don't go to Danita because she's going to mess your hair up. Which is kind of funny because she says this many times throughout the show, don't go to Danita. But I don't think we ever meet Danita. I don't even know who Danita is, which is kind of funny. So Piper's online to get food, and Gina is serving food behind the counter, and she's like, "Wait, are you Chapman?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, hold on a sec." And she gives her a plate, and she's like, "Red made that special for you." And she's like, "Really? I'll tell her I said thanks." So Piper's thinking, wow, I really thought that she had a grudge against me, but I can't believe she made me something special. How nice, how sweet. Prison's not as bad as I thought it was. When Piper sits down, she unwraps her special meal from Red. She opens the tinfoil to find an English muffin, which was like, okay, that's cool, but nobody else has an English muffin, so what else is going on here? So she tilts it to the side, opens it up, and there's nothing in there but a bloody tampon, which is absolutely disgusting. I don't even know where she got that from. I don't think Red is of age to even have one, so she must have gotten it from somebody else. It's just gross all the way around, any way you look at it. Like, you just gave a bloody tampon to somebody as food. That's disgusting. Imagine if she hadn't opened it and looked inside first. Oh my God, disgusting. So the girls at the table, Nikki and Morello and DeMarco, they all start kind of laughing at her like, oh, well, you got to put that thing away and you need to make up with Red. This is kind of crazy. But they're not like really sympathetic to her. They're just kind of making fun of her. And Piper becomes really overwhelmed. She gets so flustered that she takes her tray to the garbage can, dumps it out, but ends up taking the tray out of the cafeteria with her. And DeMarco's like, hey, where's she taking that tray? She can't take that out there. Piper is completely clueless. She is just completely overwhelmed, and she's like, I just need to get out of here. So she takes the tray with her and just tries to find some air. Somehow she gets outside. I'm not really sure why this prison is not secure, but it's not. I'm also not really sure why none of the cameras are working. They don't keep a good eye on their prisoners in this prison at all. But anyways, Piper, so she gets outside and she's trying to catch her breath. She's looking down at the floor, hyperventilating, trying to catch her breath, and 2 feet walk over to her. So she looks up and it's Alex. Alex says to her, maybe this is a bad time to say hi, huh? And Piper just screams, and it's just fade to orange. That's the end of the episode. So Piper is completely overwhelmed. She's met a lot of the people in the prison. There's family relations going on. We see backstories. We see that Alex is in the same prison as her, which is actually not true to the actual story. That's just for TV. And we're off. We're here and we're returning back to Litchfield. So that's it for this week's episode of Back to Litchfield, an Orange is the New Black rewatch podcast. Like I said at the beginning, IMDb rated this episode a 7.7. I would consider a 9 or a 10 as an outstanding, amazing episode. Like, great story, great moments, very important to the plot, everything. This was not that episode. A 7 or an 8, I would say, even if it's not my favorite episode, it definitely has important plot points. I would probably say that's where this episode falls, in that it's important to the plot, but it's not necessarily my favorite episode. It's a very Piper-heavy episode. Piper-heavy episodes are not going to be my favorite episodes because she is not my favorite character. She's one of the least interesting people in the prison to me personally. So for me personally, I would give this episode a 7.8 because I know it's very important to the plot. We get to meet Piper. We get to see what she's about. We get to see the tone of the show. We get to see that it's serious, but it's also lighthearted. It's fun. It's got a little bit of heart, right? We get to establish why Piper's in prison in the first place. We get to see who she's going to be spending her time with. We get to see who she has back home. So it's a very important episode, even if it's not my favorite episode. So I would give this episode a 7.8 out of 10. Next week's episode is season 1, episode 2, titled Tit Punch. The synopsis says, after accidentally insulting the prison's chef, the kitchen staff refuses to feed Piper. Yeah, so this is going to be more on Piper and this whole business of insulting Red and what happens with that. Also, we get a little bit more about Red's backstory. We get her first flashback. I say first because Red will have a few flashbacks of her backstory. So I do like this flashback for Red, and we'll get into that next episode. So actually, I'm excited for next week's episode because I do enjoy the backstories in this show. The backstories make the characters even more rich and they make them even more real. So I really enjoy getting to know where these people came from and how they became the women that we see today. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for hanging with me in Yadda Space. Don't forget to comment your favorite lines from the episode and let me know what your personal rating is for this week's episode. Mine was a 7.8. What do you think? I would love to hear yours. If you aren't already, please make sure you are following the Yadda Space Pod on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, TikTok, so you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, like the theme song says, it's Yadda Space with 2 E's. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll catch up with y'all next time here at Yadda Space.
Hey, welcome friends to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda here, let's set the pace. This is a rewatch podcast, so let's begin. Orange is the new black is where we dive in. Tasty's wisdom sets the tone. Like home. Nikki's got that quick one fire. Morello's love of love lifts us higher.